Hello everybody, welcome to the Comic Gamer Movie Show. My name's Deshaun and I'm here to talk about WandaVision Episode 4. I believe it's actually got a title, but I'm probably just going to put Episode 4 in my title. I believe it's called Pardon the Interruption. Or we have something like that. Pardon the Interruption or something. Interruption something. I believe that's what it's called. But this is the episode that more casual people have been waiting for. If you're a nerd and you're drenched in the MCU, such as myself, like, I'm not to brag, but I'm pretty sure I can answer almost any MCU question. Like, there's the occasional, like, super duper deep cut that I just have forgotten because I haven't seen the movie in a while. But for the most part, I could break down every single MCU movie to you right now and just break them all down. Just break it down in the exact order. I could do it alphabetically. I could do it, I can do it based on the timeline. I could do it to you. I could give it to you. I completely understand everything about the MCU because I'm coming at it from two angles of a movie fan and a comic book fan. So people like me, and probably like people like you guys who follow me, my subscribers, we understand what's going on. We've been in the know. We know we understand why the pace is why it is. We understand why they didn't want to reveal too much too soon. They wanted to set it up and to reveal it in this episode. But for people who aren't like us, for people who don't watch the MCU all the time, for people who are casual fans, which, let's face it, a lot of times us Marvel fans, I'll just say, not me, but a lot of Marvel fans, they forget that they're not the reason that the MCU is successful. People like me and people who are like hardcore nerds about this, we're not the reason that the MCU is so successful. The reason the MCU is so successful is the casual audience. They found a way to somehow bring in the nerds like us and the casual audience. And the nerds like us gives it the extra kick to gives it the extra overdrive because we're so excited, and the casuals are already excited, but like, oh cool, they're excited even more than us. What are they excited about? I want to know. And like it's this nice little symbiotic thing going on with the MCU and the MCU success. But it's all predicated on the casual audiences understanding it. The casual it wouldn't take me too long to figure out that the casual audience was very nonchalant about it. There was it's kind of weird groups of people. There are groups of people who are like, oh, I like it. This is different. This is interesting. This is interesting. There's groups of people, like older people, who are like, oh, this is such a great remake, and like they got all the sitcom-y jokes, and they got all the sitcoms that they were recreating. That they were recreating slash what's the word I'm looking for? I came up with the word. It's not parodying. I've seen a lot of people say, oh, they're parodying sitcoms. They're not parodying sitcoms. They're recreating them. They're paying homage to them. They're adapting it. They're doing sitcoms. And some people like that stuff. But there's a good chunk of people, not a lot, not a ton, but there's a good chunk of people who they did not like the sitcom stuff, who don't like sitcoms anyways, and who are like, I came here to see Marvel, MCU, punchy, comic book stuff, and I'm getting this sitcom stuff. And for all of those people, this is what this episode, this is who this episode is for. Now, some people are trying to put this false idea out there that Marvel saw what people were saying and they decided to move this episode. They panicked and moved this episode. It's very clear to me that this was that's how the episode went. They had a plan. And now that I'm seeing the episode, it's clear that when you look at the other 3 episodes, you're like, okay, they had a plan. The first 2 episodes were to lure you into a false, a comfortability with the way that the world's gonna be. Like, okay, so this is how the show's gonna be. The 3rd episode is to be like, no, there really is more going on, and more going on. And this episode is, so this is what's really going on. So just to get into the episode, it had one of the I gotta talk about this in the intro. It was this open. I guess you could consider it a cold open. It was freaking cool. First of all, I have for a while now, ever since I watched Endgame, said to myself and to others, like, they gotta do more with the blip, with the snap and the blip, I suppose, but with the snap, because I'm just like, that's a window of things to do, especially that 5-year gap. There's a 5-year gap that's unaccounted for in the MCU. A 5-year gap where Captain America, Iron Man, and all the Avengers were on Earth, and 5-year gap. There's so much crap that could have happened in that 5-year gap, and they really dive into it in the beginning. Because the intro starts off with Monica Rambeau reforming because the snap just happened. Tony Stark just gave his life to return everybody, and Monica Rambeau returned in the hospital. She just returned sitting down in a chair, and and one of the in the hospital, and she got up and as she goes into the hallway, she sees people are appearing, and all the nurses and doctors are just running around scrambling because they're like, what the hell's going on? And one person was like, I can't help you because we're at max capacity. We don't have enough room for all these people because people are just showing up. You gotta imagine how many people when Thanos snapped disappeared in the hospital. I mean, there have been many conversations about the idea that what if you were in middle of heart surgery and you disappeared? What if you were in the middle of this and you disappeared? What if you were there? Now, the Russo brothers have kind of already commented on that. Some people have kind of missed that bit. The Russo brothers have commented on that and said that the Hulk was smart enough to know when he made people appear to make them appear safely. It was smart enough to, indicate that the Hulk was smart enough to know if I'm gonna make them appear safely. He's had nothing but time to think about this shit. It's not a shocker that he would think that. So everyone was gonna appear safely. Well, safely enough that you're not gonna die, basically. But either way, it's crazy though. Like I said, it's freaking crazy, and it's chaos. And like I said, Spider-Man: Homecoming, Far From Home did talk about it. But it talked about the funniness. Like, it was like the innocent version of that. Like, kids showing up in the middle, like the band disappearing, the entire band disappearing, and then the band reappearing in the middle of a basketball game. People coming back years later, and their kid brother is now older than them. Like, you imagine that? Like, the bits of that was funny, though. Like, that bit got me, because I'm just like, I couldn't imagine that. Having a freaking, like, me being, like, 14 years old, my little brother's, like, 10, and I disappear, come back, and he's 15, I'm still 14. I'm like, what the hell? Wait a minute, no, what happened? The balance of power has shifted. But, so they touched upon this, but this opening touched upon it in a very more terrifying, more, it would, like, this is something too. It would be interesting to see a movie based off of a just ordinary character trying to deal with, the blip. Which, some people don't know this, the snap is when everyone disappeared. Well, they call it the decimation. In the MCU, the snap is actually called the decimation. But when everyone came back, they just called it the blip. I guess they call it the blip because people did just blip. They were just back. They were just boom, back. Or at least it looked like that. You kind of see in this, though, that it's more like a reformation kind of thing. It just happened so quickly that it just looks like they just came back and it just whoop. But, anywho. We find out that Maria Rambeau from Captain Marvel, Monica's mother, passed away in the time she was gone. It was very sad. I was saddened too. I was like, oh, that sucks, because in my mind I was like, oh, I can't wait to see Maria Rambeau, and you'll see they'll probably have to give the actress some makeup to look older because she's older, but I can't wait to see her and if she see Cap Curl again. But it's so sad that she died from cancer. And it made it even worse is when apparently when Monica disappeared, she was there with her mother. She was getting treatments, and apparently the surgery or whatever she was getting went great, went well, and then she disappeared. So you gotta imagine how her mindset must be. She was happy to see her mom. Her mom's gonna live, and then she disappears, and then she basically blinks because the way they set it up is like when you get snapped away, you just blink, because most of the characters that came back, they were just like, huh? Like Peter wasn't like traumatized. It was just like, well, I just kind of blinked. It's like going to sleep. You just imagine it's like going to sleep. It's like getting knocked out cold. It's a blink. You don't know. You can't tell that you've been out or gone. So she just blinked, and she comes back, and not only is everything in chaos, her mother's dead. And not only is her mother dead, her mother passed away years ago. And that's just a lot to take on. So, like, that's just the opening. That's the opening. The rest of the episode is just bonkers. First of all, you get to see S.W.O.R.D., which was founded by Maria Rambeau. I'm pretty sure it was founded by Maria and like someone else. There's probably a couple other people involved. But Maria was basically like Peggy Carter. How Peggy Carter was one of the founding members. I think she was one of the three. It's her and Howard founded S.H.I.E.L.D. Maria helped find S.W.O.R.D. And apparently S.W.O.R.D. has always existed in the MCU. It's just the function that they served wasn't very, active. The function they basically served, where they were like super astronauts. Basically, they dealt with outer space stuff. They dealt with going on outer space stuff, sending shit in outer space, flying as far as they can get, and stuff along that nature. So they dealt with like I said, it was basically like SWORD is a basically super NASA. Like, they just deal with outer space stuff, and they deal with like making things and whatnot to travel in space, to, you know, get more data in outer space. But after the blip, they had to take on a new role in the world. Because clearly they do more work on Earth now. Like, now SWORD's more on Earth. Because like I said, apparently SWORD really didn't do a lot of work on Earth. I guess they just kind of left that up to S.H.I.E.L.D. But S.H.I.E.L.D.'s gone now, so it's kind of left up to SWORD to, you know, pick up the slack that S.H.I.E.L.D. did too. But we find out that Monica was a member of SWORD. Not only was she a member, she was a captain. So that's great, Captain Monica, which is great because if you don't know from the comic books, Monica Rambeau, aka Photon, aka Spectrum. She's had many monikers over the years, but she was the original Captain Marvel. Not original Captain Marvel. Marvel was the original Captain Marvel, but Monica was the original female Captain Marvel. They gave her the title first, and then eventually they gave it to Carol in the comics. And then they just retroactively made it so that Carol always was the first female Captain Marvel, and then Monica just became Photon or Spectrum. She has cool powers. We don't know if she's going to get it in the show, but we'll see. Anywho, you know, she gets back to HQ. You know, she's talking to the new boss man, and you know, they make sure to put it out there that he's not the actual director. He's like the serving director. So like, they kind of put it out there that it's like, oh, this is a temporary thing until we figure out who we want to be the actual, you know, until we have a vote on who's going to be the going forward. So they kind of put that out there. So maybe Monica is going to be something. A lot of people thought that Nick Fury was on a SWORD spaceship and that he was the director, but I don't know. I don't know if Talos and them have anything to do with this, that ship that Nick Fury was on at the end of Far From Home, but we don't know. But it's good seeing SWORD. So Monica is sent out to New Jersey to help out an FBI agent on a missing persons case. None other than Jimmy Woo from Ant-Man and the Wasp. And Jimmy's hilarious, by the way. By the way, I might be the only person who got ridiculous kick out of him doing the up-close magic card trick. It was hysterical for me because it was just funny. It's just something like, it's something that if you don't pay attention, you wouldn't notice, and it just kind of go over your head. But I remembered it when he did it. He did this card trick. I was like, you figured it out. I mean, it took you 5 years, but you're figuring it out. And I was like, because, you know, maybe it's because I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp not too long ago, but that just got a giggle out of me, and how proud he was of it. Like, you know, so like, and they're outside of this town, Westview, and they're talking to these cops, and these cops, they don't know Westview exists. So like, did Wanda like erase Westview from the mind of anyone from Westview? Because when Monica gets there, she's talking to Woo, and Woo's telling him, oh well, the only reason I'm out here is because there's what's the fuck, somebody in the witness protection. So this is an important person. This is somebody who knows some shit. So somebody like some unknown in witness protection. And he's supposed to like, and like he disappeared, so they sent Woo out there because they thought he tried to, you know, run away. He's in witness protection. Clearly, he's an important person to getting that. And they don't know, and he's like, and Woo's like, I've called people who know him, and they don't remember who he is anymore. And then he gets all the way out here, and these cops don't, they're like, there is no such thing as Westview. And you're staring at a sign that says Westview. Weird enough. But then, Monica tries to fly a drone into Westview, and it goes through the little force field and disappears. Then Monica starts touching it, and she pops inside. And that's how she got inside, I suppose. Then it cuts 24 hours later, and they're bringing in some specialists, which includes Darcy Lewis from the Thor movies. Yes, Darcy from Thor 1 and Thor the Dark World is back. And it's so easy to forget this, but the MCU's timeline technically takes place in 2023. I guess it'd be 2024 now, since it takes place, since it's like, it's still continuing in real time. It just kind of jumped 5 years. So I guess it'd be like 2024. Darcy hasn't been seen, we haven't seen Darcy Darcy's been up to who knows what in like 10 years. Darcy's been off screen for 10 years. And apparently she got her degrees, because she's a doctor now. She's Dr. Darcy Lewis. She's, she knows some shit. Which makes sense, because clearly the story that they were playing with Darcy, it's not a very, you know, engrossing story, but the story they were telling with Darcy is she's the kid who, I don't care about math, and then she sits down learns, then she sits down, she's like, oh, this is easy. And then she actually starts, like the kid was like, I don't care about this thing. And then they actually are pretty good at it, and they get good at it, and they actually become passionate about it. And you're just like, wow, I wouldn't have imagined that. That's Darcy. Darcy, you know, she's like a bona fide scientist. Like, and she's, immediately when she gets there, she helps figure out what the hell's going on, and like she like figures out that like apparently the radioactive waves coming off that force field that's taking over that whole town is like, I can't remember what they called it, but I remember what they described it as, which is the echoes of the Big Bang. I was like, wait, what? And apparently that's a legit thing. There's this, I don't even remember the name of it, but there's like this actual radiation that's still out there from when the Big Bang happened. It's just the echoes of it. So, which makes logical sense, because if you remember in Infinity War and stuff, how everyone says that the Infinity Stones were formed when the Big Bang happened. Like, they like contained a lot of the energy from the Big Bang. So it makes sense. Wanda's powers came from the stone. Big Bang makes a lot of sense. But it had like it had like these kind of waves over top of it. These like TV kind of waves on top of it. And she figured out that if she can, you know, set it up some kind of way, she can actually watch what's going on in there. And eventually she got some old TV, figured it out, and they were watching WandaVision. And it's kind of funny because a lot of it is them basically doing what we do, which is just like, oh man, that's crazy. Like, they're doing the same things we're doing. They're like watching the show. They don't understand what the hell's going on either. Jimmy Woo said the most accurate line, just like, so the universe made a sitcom series starring 2 Avengers? It's just like, I don't know. They still don't know. We got a lot of confirmation, though, in this episode. First of all, most of the people, basically everyone in this town is real. There was a lot of people who thought, oh, maybe they're illusions. Maybe they're not. No, they're real. They're all real. Most of the people in this town are real people. We still don't know what's going on with Agnes. And we got confirmation that, you know, we got a lot of, like I said, a lot of confirmations in this episode. But that was the big one, that those people are real. That was Jimmy Woo, who was asking about Wanda. Wanda, who's doing this to you? That was Jimmy Woo. That was a sword agent who went in, who turned into a beekeeper. So a lot of confirmation of a lot of things in this episode. But the ending, in fact, was very intense. First of all, we got to see, because last episode you saw that Wanda kicked Geraldine, aka Monica, out, but we got to actually see when it happened. And it was terrifying. Wanda was terrifying, and like, she Hadouken her ass out of there. I mean, she went through like 4 walls, dude. She went through like 3 walls. She went through wall, just flew out that motherfucker. I mean, she punched her ass hard. I mean, she knocked her ass out. Really out. And then she fixed the wall, and then this creepy thing happened, which terrified a lot of people. Got me. I kind of went. I didn't jump. I was just kind of like, oh. Which is, Wanda turns around. Like, you kind of saw it in the 3rd episode, when, you know, she's like, she had to rush home, but you never got to see it continues. She turns around, and Vision's face is pale, with the chunk missing out of his head. And I was like, oh! And, you know, she kind of looks away for a little bit. She looks terrified. She looks down, and then she looks back up, and he's better. And Vision's kind of trying to tell her, we can leave. She's like, no, we can't leave. And then they just kind of, and then he kind of goes, okay, well, we can go. But you can kind of tell that he's still hesitant. And spoiler alert, don't watch any of the promotion for this show, because they do give away a couple little tidbits. Granted, I don't think they're giving it away all of it, but they do give away little tidbits. But man, like, and then Voodoo, and then like Monica's like on the ground. She's like, it's Wanda. It's all Wanda. Like insinuating that Wanda's doing all of this. And then Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix starts playing, and they grab and they're both sitting on the couch with the babies, and it cuts. That episode was awesome. 10 out of 10. I don't want to go on anymore. If I want to speculate, but my head's gonna explode. Thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. Please leave me a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. What did you think about this WandaVision episode 4? Did you love it as much as I did? Are you finally okay? Are you all up to speed? So now let's keep it rolling. Thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show again. I'll see you in the next one.